Good morning, everyone, and a very warm welcome to today's Eurocommerce debate. Today's discussion on International Women's Day is important to me as the first woman leading the European Association for Retail and Wholesale. We hope with today's discussion that we will be able to take stock of the progress in advancing women's participation in employment, shed light on the challenges they continue to face on the workplace, and the need to continued action. Today, in the European Union, women's participation in the labor market is high, yet many still face barriers in joining and in remaining in the labor market. Our sector has a high record. Women represent 62% of retail employment. Our members play a proactive role in the creation and employment and implementation of various voluntary initiatives, supporting equal treatment, inclusion, and diversity in the workplace. We're a key sector in supporting career progression from the shop floor to the boardroom. And here again, our sector tends to perform better with 31% of women in board positions against a 26% average in S&P listed companies. We're leading the way with women entrepreneurship in retail, topping all other economic sectors. Yet, a lot remains to be done. According to the World Economic Forum's Global Gender Gap Report in 2023, achieving complete gender equality and parity would take another 131 years. So addressing barriers women still face in retail and wholesale is an imperative. It doesn't just benefit our sector, it can enhance growth, productivity, competitiveness in our societies and economies. So today's discussion, we hope, will help shed light on some of the challenges and opportunities women still encounter in the workplace and showcase some of the good practices and solutions that are being developed to promote gender equality and support women in the workplace. I will hand over now to Joanna, who will moderate our panel discussion. An issue with the sound system. I'd like to get started and ask Mrs. Radka Maxová, who's a member of the European Parliament and Vice Chair of the FEMM Committee, who has kindly agreed to be with us this morning and give a keynote and share her views. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, today I am really honored to address a pivotal question that share our societal landscape, particularly focusing on women's participation, dual-earn households, education, and STEM fields, which are issues defining not only our present, but also significantly influence our future. When we reflect on the issue of women's participation and involvement, there has been a slow but steady growth in placing women at the forefront of decision-making process, with 26 countries currently having 28 women as heads of state or government in the world, and the figure for the European Union is 6 countries with 7 women. As positive as these changes may seem compared to previous years, they also point to the continued need for an effective and robust effort to meet the goals of fully gender parity. This need is best demonstrated by the data from recent research showing that only 25% of parliamentary seats in the world and 32% in the EU are held by women. A progressive trend can also be seen in the corporate sphere, with many large companies moving towards placing women in CEO positions, as today's number is the record of women leading the Fortune 15 higher than ever before in history. However, the sad addition of context is that this all-time high is only 10%. Also, the trend of a willingness to benefit from a diverse and inclusive work environment is evident in business. The unfortunate evergreen of the work environment remains the gender pay gap. The unequal pay system then goes hand in hand with the dynamic of dual-earned households, in which we need to focus our attention on national tax systems. An example of good practice here is Sweden, where progressive taxation policies have contributed to increasing female labor participation rates, with around 82% of women aged between 25 and 54 participating in the workforce. In the contrast, countries with less favorable tax structure often witness lower female labor participation rates, reflecting the crucial role of policy frameworks in shaping societal dynamics. To make women's participation in the labor force more effective, the promises of the 23 Barcelona targets must be taken very seriously. In particular, early childhood education and care and long-term care reveals a mixed landscape of achievement and gaps. While some countries have made commendable strides in expanding access to quality care, disparities persist globally. According to UNESCO's Global Education Monitoring Report 2021, over 200 million children under age of 5 lack access to early childhood education. This data underscore the urgent need for accelerated efforts to meet the targets set from in the Barcelona agenda. I firmly believe in the interconnectedness of the worlds of education and work and the need to develop these entities together. Bridging the gap between the worlds of work and education necessitates innovative initiatives like entrepreneurial education. Take the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship as a case in point. NFTE has equipped over 1.2 million young people from underserved communities worldwide with the skills and mindset needed to succeed in the 21st century economy. Such initiatives demonstrated the transformative power of entrepreneurial education in preparing individuals for the challenges and opportunities of the future job market. Another level of education that I consider essential, it is gender dimension. Gender-sensitive education emerges as a critical tool in challenging stereotypes and promoting diversity in career choices. In Norway, targeted intervention to promote gender equality in STEM fields have yielded promising results, with women now representing 37% of STEM graduates. This exemplifies the transformative impact of proactive policies and initiatives in fostering gender equality in traditionally male-dominated fields. Of course, bolstering girls' participation in STEM fields, particularly in the context of green and digital transformation, requires multi-phase interventions. Countries like Estonia offer valuable lessons in this regard. Estonia's e-Estonia initiative has not only revolutionized its digital infrastructure, but also prioritized gender equality in STEM education and workforce participation. As a result, women now represent over 40% of STEM graduates in Estonia, contributing significantly to the country innovation system. In conclusion, addressing the critical question requires a holistic approach informed by empirical evidence and driven by concentrated action. By leveraging successful initiatives, investing in gender equality, and fostering inclusive environments, I firmly believe we can collectively pave the way for a more equitable and prosperous future. Thank you very much for your invitation and for your attention.
Good morning. Does everybody hear me? Great. Apologies for the original issues with the sound, but I'm very pleased to be with you here today. And thank you so much, Ms. Maxová, for that address. I wonder if I could ask you just one question specifically about the Barcelona targets for 2030. Could you tell us anything about how far you feel you've gone towards achieving those targets?
A really difficult question, because gender equality is sometimes a red point for a lot of politicians, as we can see in European Parliament during plenary, during different discussion and so on. But I think it is about our society that we need to explain how is positive to make equality in the workforce, in workplace, in care for children, for our elderly people, for our parents. And we need to talk more about our targets, and that it is normal because we are 50 and 50 in our society. And it is also about, I think, about us as women, because sometimes we have, for me at this time, a lot of women who can't something like fight for our equality and our rights. And I think it is very dangerous because they are very loudly, and we need to be more visible for equality. I think it is really difficult, but we don't need to stop. We need to go ahead.
Absolutely. And you've achieved so much in your role as Vice Chair for the Women's Rights and Gender Equality Committee over the years. If there's one thing that you would like to see happen in the next mandate, or one thing that you would like to change, what would it be?
I can say that my mandate in the European Parliament and mandate of FEMM committee was very successful, because we have directive for transparency pay gap, we have women's on board, we have directive against violence against women, and so on. We have care deal, we have LGBT strategy. So I think this mandate was really nice, and we did a lot for equality. One thing, it's difficult to say one thing, because we don't have really equality up to now. So we need to push our governments in our member states for equality. And I think that words quotas. I think we need quotas in our candidate lists for this election, and we need to have a better work-life balance, because if we don't have equality in care for children, for elderly, then it's very difficult to have equality in in politics. So I think we need to push more our member states, because it is responsibility of our member states.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ms. Maxová. We really appreciate your contribution, and you're going to stay with us for the rest of the webinar. So we'll come back to you in due course. In the meantime, I'll skip back to the beginning, where I would have said, if you could have heard me, that my name is Joukio Inglis. I'm Director for Advocacy and Political Affairs at Eurocommerce. And it's my great honor and privilege to moderate this webinar today on International Women's Day 2024. We're delighted to have such an amazing panel and to have so many of you with us today, because we've had a great number of registrations for this webinar. Just a couple of things to say, so you know, this webinar is being recorded because we hope to capture all of the ideas and disseminate them as much as possible in the future. And also, we will have a Q&A session towards the end of the webinar, so you have an opportunity to submit your questions via the chat. Please do also say or give us your name and your affiliation so that we can come back to you if we have time at the end of the session. Hopefully we'll carve out a little space for that. But for now, we have such a great agenda, but it's a very packed one. So we're going to be skipping on quickly to our panel discussion, and delighted to have a very esteemed panel of speakers with us today. Each speaker is going to speak for approximately 3 minutes on their given topic. If we can keep to the timing, that would be amazing, but we'll all do our best. But we start with our first speaker on the panel this morning, who is Anton Delbar, who is Chief Economist for Eurocommerce. Hi, good morning, Anton.
Good morning.
Good morning. So Anton, one thing that we'd be really interested to hear from you is if you could give us a sense of the role that women are currently playing in retail and wholesale in the EU economy, and perhaps more specifically, what the impact of part-time work and part-time jobs is on the economy.
Yes. So basically, I'll start with the sheer size of the number of women and people that are employed in our sector. So basically, we have 26 million people working in our sector, and 62% of those are women. That means that we represent around 1 in 7 jobs, 1 in 4 businesses, over 5.5 million businesses, and 99% of those are SMEs. So basically, that shows that we are represented throughout society, also geographically. And also, part-time work is a really big part of our sector. They're quite common. And why is it important also for women? It's because only 1 in 4 part-time workers are male. So basically, 3 out of 4 people in part-time jobs are women. Now, the availability of part-time work is extremely important and overall positive for the economy, because it gives a lot of people access to the labor market, people that otherwise would have been unable to participate because, for instance, have care responsibilities, health issues, or other very valid reasons like being a full-time student. So issues that prohibit them from performing a full-time job. And so basically, a lot of people that want to be active in the labor market get the opportunity to do so, that are not able to do a full-time job. Now, often part-time work is a positive choice, for instance, to get a better work-life balance, but not always. And that is one of the big issues. Sometimes people are forced into part-time work because there's a lack of social infrastructure. That means, for instance, that they would like to work full-time, but they have childcare duties, or they have other duties like caring for somebody who's sick. And basically, these are things that could be better covered by governments, and that would free up those people to do the full-time job they would like to do. Another important element going forward is that labor markets will become more and more constrained in the coming decades. Around 1 million people every year will leave the working age population. So that means we need to find better ways to match the needs of employees and the needs of employers to make sure that everybody that wants to participate in the labor market can participate. And an important element there will be the opportunity to go from full-time to part-time or part-time to full-time throughout your career as your work-life balance needs change over time. So I think these are all really important elements of part-time work, and also think food for thought for policymakers.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Antoine. We'll come back to you in the Q&A session with some more questions, no doubt. But for now, we'll move on to our next speaker on the panel, which is Teresa Bayari-Foss, who is Director of Communications and Sustainability at Consume. Good morning, Teresa.
Hi, everybody. Hello from Consume, from Spain. Thanks to Eurocommerce for this opportunity of learning and sharing good practices of equality and work-life balance.
Excellent. Thank you, Teresa. Now, we know that Consume is doing some amazing things in terms of voluntary initiatives aimed at addressing stereotypes in particular associated with roles of women, not simply in the workplace, but also within the family. Could you outline some of the initiatives that Consume currently has underway to enable women to really be fulfilled in the workplace?
Yes. Okay. So we are a different supermarket chain with 900 supermarket stores in Spain. We are a cooperative of worker members and consumer members, and we are 21,000 workers, and 72% are women. This female majority in a model whose success is based on people makes equal opportunities and work-life balance fundamental in our people's strategy. At Consume, improving the wage gap between women and men involves focusing on opportunities for women to access positions of greater responsibility with the cooperative. There's more and more data that keep us moving forward, and we are training and professional growth possibilities offered by the cooperative have opened the doors to leadership positions for many women in the organization in recent years, and more specifically in potentials plan. 72% of the promotions in the last year have been women, and they occupy 56, sorry for that, of the organization's total positions of responsibility, which includes the positions of director, executive, area head, and figures that continue to grow year after year. Parity at Consume is an aspect that is growing, even in some typically male areas, such as logistics on platforms. We are already many women working on leading teams. A specific 63% of store directors and managers are women. Well, we have volunteer measures implemented on top of what is being regulated by the laws. The cooperative is committed to work-life balance, as you said, to encourage the joint responsibility of men and women in terms of childcare and other dependent individuals at home. For that reason, Consume invested 41 million euros on work-life balance during last financial year, and we have a catalog that has 75 conciliation measures that we can underline some of them if you want. We have medical service, loans for workers, life and accidents insurance for our working members, also continuous working day that is very important in our sector, transfers due to proximity of workplace to home, 5-day working week in supermarkets is very important in our organization. This measure. We have also cumulative lactation leave, paternity leave, baby basket voucher for parents, payment for children with disabilities. We also have payment due to disability and payment for employees who are victims of domestic violence, that we think it's very important to make it more visible to everybody. Provide equality courses for both men and women in our organization, and we think we're doing great efforts to promote fair, inclusive workplace.
Excellent. Thanks, Teresa. It must be a huge asset in attracting and retaining women to the workforce, and all of these initiatives taken under your own steam, which is not easy to do, but very admirable. So thank you for outlining them for us. So we'll move on. Thanks, Teresa. We'll come back hopefully at the end for some group chat on these topics. But for now, we will move on to our next panelist, who is Riikka Joukio, who is Executive Vice President for Corporate Responsibility and Public Affairs at KESKO in Finland. So Riikka, delighted to have you with us this morning. Just to kick off, there's many voluntary proactive steps that KESKO is implementing at the moment to remove barriers hindering the advancement of women in the workplace where you are. Could you outline some of them for us?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Joanna, and very good morning to everybody on the line from Finland, Helsinki, Finland. So first, a couple of words about KESKO. So this is a Finnish company present in 8 countries and one of the largest trade sector companies in Northern Europe. And we are in 3 different businesses, which are grocery trade, building and technical trade, and car trade. And together with our independent retailers, so KESKO employs about 45,000 people. And the current situation gender-wise at KESKO is the following. So share of women in total is 41.6%. And in middle management, we have about 36% women. And then going towards top management, so top management is about 28%. But I have to say that even though the shares are going lower, the closer to the top we are going. So the share of women in middle management has really grown steadily, and that's very positive development. Now, diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of the key topics in our sustainability strategy, and therefore we want to aim to more equal share of men and women at all levels at the company. So we introduced last year a target for less represented gender, meaning women in this case, so have more women leaders. And the target is that we will have 33% women on our top management teams. So corporate management board, and then also the 3 division management teams. And this is by 2030. And another really important target is the gender pay equity, where we are at the moment at the level of 98%. And then we also implement gender neutral recruitment practices. So in recruitment, we do not, for example, ask gender or age or any of these type of things. And the target is diversity at large. So when it comes to the gender, but also experience, also languages, because not everybody currently or today speaks Finnish, and also competencies are an important sector. Now then some practical examples, what we are doing to empower women to become future leaders. And it is particularly nice to tell about this today on the International Women's Day, because we have a lot of activities today. For example, we have made a video with 6 KESKO's female leaders, emphasizing some key learnings and hints to be given to the colleagues on their career path. And also the same 6 women are also offering today a certain number of mini mentoring sessions for younger colleagues who want to discuss a particular topic or something that they are having in mind when it comes to their career development. And I have already today been in 2 mini mentor sessions, and then there's one to come. And then also very recently we signed the UN Women's Empowerment Principles, and that was signed by the CEO of the company. And then last one is what we are outlining for future is that we are now planning to have a leadership training for women particularly, so that it's kind of a normal leadership training, of course, but also it's possible to discuss more about, for example, these caring roles that women are having. So this is to give you some examples.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Riikka. There's a lot of food for thought there. And I think your focus on mentoring is particularly inspiring as well, because if you can't see it, you can't be it. And it's obviously very valuable to have the experience of women who've gone before you and have that knowledge to share. I know you have a particularly interesting background when it comes to technology, and we know with retail and wholesale that we have a huge transition ahead of us digitally and sustainably and in skills. So we do need to focus more on how to get more women into the STEM streams. So we'll come back to you on that to get your perspective on it. But for now, it leads quite nicely on to our next speaker, who is Miss Katja Lenzing, who is acting head of unit for Directorate-General for Justice and Consumers. And I know, Katja, the Commission has had a focus on STEM and is aware that there is a need there to get more women feeling confident and trained up in the STEM subject to help with the transition that we have ahead of us. But maybe I could ask you just generally to start with what kind of initiatives the Commission is focusing on for women and in the world of work.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna. Well, maybe to start out with figures, because the situation is indeed very dire, and the gender gap in STEM and notably in ICT is huge. We have both in the job market and in education 80% of male ICT specialists working in the sector, and over 80% of ICT graduates are men, although women make up overall almost 60% of university graduates. So there's a big gap to bridge. Now, unfortunately, there is no silver bullet. You can't just legislate to get more women in STEM. We need to act on two fronts, and we are acting on two fronts. So first, to stimulate the curiosity and interest of women in STEM, and second, to tackle harmful gender stereotypes which hold girls' and women's aspirations back. So to turn to the first one, we have a number of initiatives to stimulate this curiosity and incentivize women's participation. Let me maybe give you just two examples, more recent ones. We have just launched a call under our Digital Euro program entitled Girls and Women in Digital. And this is aimed at tackling existing or identifying and tackling barriers that exist and showcase promising practices to overcome them. So this is a call currently open. And we have also more recently launched a project where a pilot has been running for some time, the EU Code Week, that is aimed at reaching or at promoting computer and ICT skills in a large range of people, targeting notably young people. And half of the participants so far have been women, so that's a promising example that such pilots can make a difference. And we are now scaling up this project to be available in all member states. Of course, with these projects, yeah, it is incremental. Things will take time, but let me also look at what we do to tackle these harmful gender stereotypes. Here, clearly, we need to start at an early age in education. So we plan to tackle both starting in primary but also secondary education to identify innovative teaching practices that will help get more girls interested in these STEM and ICT subjects, and we will support member states in their efforts to do so. Again, it's all not something that will get us the necessary additional 30% of ICT and STEM graduates tomorrow, but I'm confident that if both member states and the EU level work together, and that businesses create this positive work environment with mentoring, with offer for care facilities that the previous speakers have described, we will be able to attract their talent and promote more women in STEM. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks so much for that insight, Katja. And yeah, definitely a step in the right direction, that's for sure, with a lot more steps ahead, and a lot of involvement from the member states, of course. But we'll come back to that topic as well, hopefully later. For now, we'll move on to our last panelist, who is Claudia Goldscherhout, who is Policy Advisor at the EU representation of the Austrian Federal Economic Chamber. Hi, good morning, Claudia.
Good morning, and thanks to Eurocommerce for organizing this panel discussion.
Pleasure to have you with us. So just to ask from you, really, quite broadly, if you can elaborate a bit on some of the challenges and opportunities that are facing women entrepreneurs in Austria.
Thanks a lot. Maybe to give you a bit of a context on the Austrian situation first, there are more than 145,000 female entrepreneurs in Austria, and the number of female founders has risen steadily over the years and currently stands at around 45%. So that basically means that almost every second company is founded by a woman, which is a very strong signal in favor of female entrepreneurs. In addition, more than a third of companies are run by a woman. And for example, in our commerce sector, 37% of entrepreneurs are female. For entrepreneurs with children, care responsibilities, but as well as for their employees, it's reconciling work and family life that remains a major challenge. As we all know, the care responsibilities primarily lie with women, which is why this is particularly pertinent to female entrepreneurs. Currently in Austria, there are only around 30% of children under the age of 3 that are in childcare, or that would benefit from early childhood education. Especially in rural areas, the supply of childcare places lags behind as compared to urban centers. But we will also need to adapt childcare times to the working realities of parents, because currently both the opening hours and the holiday times of childcare facilities do not correspond to the requirements. And the number of childcare places that are compatible with parents' full-time employment have fallen since 2021 to under 50%. And since you're asking about other specific challenges as well, I would like to mention that with our European Umbrella Association as a Chamber of Commerce, Eurochambers is regularly publishing a report, a survey on women entrepreneurship. And in its latest edition, participants confirmed that in all over Europe, bureaucracy and administrative tape is a specific challenge, which is probably true for all entrepreneurs, but also access to finance, for example, was listed as a major challenge.
Excellent. Thanks, Claudia. I think you touched on some really important points there, and the access to finance situation is particularly acute for entrepreneurs, obviously. So it would be interesting to explore a bit more about where the barriers are there and why and how we can overcome them. But thank you so much for that insight.
Thank you.
Great. So now we've spoken to all of our panelists briefly. We have a couple more questions, though. and I'd like to go back, if I may, to Katja, just to ask you, Katja, what are the most effective strategies or initiatives you think that could be implemented to address the barriers faced by women entrepreneurs?
Well, the previous speaker already mentioned one of them, access to finance. That is clearly a problem. Just again, a figure. EU-founded women startups only represent 2.4% of EU invested venture capital. So that's very, dismally low. Here, the EU is trying to plug the gap by offering through our Invest EU program both non-repayable and repayable loans to female entrepreneurs, and we have a dedicated program also for women in tech, so to support women startups in deep tech. A second barrier is I'd call it the confidence gap, and there, in this respect, dedicated training, mentoring, and coaching is definitely key. So here, our programs are also supporting, but this is actually an activity that needs to be done at all levels. And then thirdly, it is also the care or the social infrastructure that allows women to take up these tasks, which if you're launching a business, this is a full-time job, so you need to have the necessary care infrastructure. And here, our initiative, it was already mentioned in the beginning, the Barcelona targets. Our member states have committed to reach a target of overall 45% participation of children in early childhood education and care. That requires ramping up the infrastructure significantly, and also the length of the opening hours, the time intensity of participation, as we call it in our jargon, is very important, because we see that, and again, that has been mentioned as a barrier to engaging in business. Those would be the three main issues.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Katja. So just as a reminder to the participants, please do feel free to send in your questions in the chat. We're going to have a few minutes towards the end of this session to address them. But for now, I'd really like to go back to MEP Maxová again to ask Hi again. Just to ask you, in terms of advice that you might give your younger self in your own journey in the professional workplace, what lesson or message do you think you've learned to become and be where you are that you wish you'd known when you were younger? I think you may be on mute there.
Yeah. Message for young women.
Yeah.
Be strong. Don't stop if you have some idea which is good for you, because you will really need a lot of power for your life. And don't be afraid to discuss your opinion, because sometimes it's very difficult to explain why you want to be so strong women, and why you need work-life balance and very good men, and so on. So be strong, really strong, and be good educated, and try to explain your girlfriends, your boyfriend, why is important to have equality in our society. Because even if Europe is really high in in equality for men and women, we can see that in some countries are a lot of problems with equality. For example, Poland, for example, United States with abortion and so on. So we need to save this condition for women as we have. We don't need to go back, because now we can feel a really big pressure to take our rights back from the last century. So we need really good educated society, not only women, but also men, boys, and be strong and try to more fight, more explain, but we don't have to stop. So
Yeah.
for young men, strong and go ahead, don't stop.
Exactly. A marathon that we have to sprint. Yeah, we need stamina for sure. Thank you so much for that. I'd just like to also quickly go back to Riikka. Just to ask you, Riikka, we touched briefly before on your background in engineering, the fact that you've done some very technical, innovative work in the past, largely in the company of men. Studying engineering at university, you must have been in a minority. That didn't hold you back, though. What was your philosophy in being groundbreaking in that way?
Oh, yes, thank you. Actually, it was quite interesting to also dig into a little bit the situation in Finland. So I would like to share with you that Finland holds the 8th place in the overall gender equality index. But however, I mean, women account for less than 20% of those who have earned a degree in technology. And what I heard earlier today is that in Norway, the figure was 37%. So we actually have a way to go here. And it really is important to have the technical background for retail sector as well, even though it may not be thought as a traditional STEM career, but understanding technology and mathematics will be highly beneficial and valuable in many areas in the retail industry. For example, in the data analysis, marketing, logistics, e-commerce, retail, innovations, and also sustainability. And as you said, so I have a background in technology and engineering, and why I went there in the first place was that I liked the mathematics a lot, and then also physics. And then I was thinking that it might be a good area in that sense, that it really, you learn at the university things that no one can know without education. And I was thinking that might probably would be a good way to find interesting jobs. And that was proven to be true. I mean, really, I started in the jobs that were really engineer jobs and in the manufacturing industry. And then I've been I've been working as a marketing head, and also been running some business units, and also working with sustainability and public affairs. So I think that it really has given me a good background to be in different positions. Nevertheless, there's always a lot of learning that you have to do during the career, because that was decades ago when I studied. But this type of things, and I think there somebody mentioned that you have to have courage, and that is something that I think too, that also the studies gave a kind of a, how would I say, it was normal to be working in environment when there are a lot of men, so they're not scaring, so to say. There are very positive issues there as well, and it made it, I think, more normal to think about any jobs, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the variety and the diversity is the important thing as well, and feeling that you can be good at lots of things. You don't have to just stick to one. But that's a nice note on which to move to our panel discussion, where I think all of our panelists are going to be visible. So we'll just take a moment to bring everyone back together. Great. Okay, well, thank you all. We do have a few minutes before we wrap up with some thoughts from Christelle on what she's heard today and what we've discussed. I suppose I could put a general question to anybody who might like to answer it, which is how perhaps we can effectively challenge gender stereotypes to encourage pursuit of jobs regardless of traditional gender expectations. Would any panelists like to touch on that subject? I know Riikka has already made a good start there. Any other thoughts on that topic of how to rid ourselves of gender stereotyping going forwards?
Well, I'd be happy to add my points here. I think it's been mentioned before by Katja. It's really important to start at a very early age, at school at the latest, in my opinion, to really show the variety of jobs and possibilities that you have, and maybe to add or linking back to the entrepreneurship aspect. I think entrepreneurship and a basic understanding of business and finance should also be integrated into curricula, for example, and adding there also digital skills. I think it's been mentioned should really be one of the or should be the fourth basic skill alongside reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Absolutely. And oh yes, Riikka.
Yeah, maybe I can add on a little bit that I think it's also important that we give positive examples and role models, so that we tell about the careers that are a little bit different than what is expected for women to do. And it's also some smaller things like in the communications that the companies or any organization is doing, that we have also women visible. You can think about, for example, in our case, that we are in car trade, and when we are hiring mechanicians, so it's not that often they are women, but we try to show them in the communications as well that this is a possible career for all genders.
Great, thanks, Riikka. And Katja, I think
to add, I think we should also engage more men and boys in this discussion, and support them to take on more care responsibilities. Women often say, even before having a family, think I can't go for a career because how would that be compatible with a family? No man takes this reflection, and so if we achieve an equal sharing of care responsibilities, it would be a lot easier for women to pursue their careers. And business can help also in maybe encouraging also men to take parental leave, because there we see that the uptake of men is still pretty dismal, and or at least not to totally discourage them from doing so. So here I think we need to go with both sexes, but get rid of this this perceived responsibility of or primary responsibility of women for caretaking, which is one of the main factors that holds them back.
Great, thank you, Katja. And Teresa, Anton, just before I come to you, Teresa, any thoughts on that topic of confidence?
Yes, I do share everything we were talking about, and I think there's a physical charge and also a mental charge that is always in the head of women, almost here in Spain. So I think we are very important to give visibility to female profiles, and also to make several initiatives to make awareness about this mental charge must be shared. So we for instance want to share one initiative. We share the bag that weighs the least to raise awareness about equal opportunities between women and men. Under this slogan, the bag that weighs at least, the cooperative wanted to raise this awareness. A cotton bag we share with our clients, and this shopper bag contained a list to be able to mark off the small actions carried about every day to fight against equality in our houses, in our families. So I think it's very important, these kind of actions to make people awareness about this need.
You're right. You're absolutely right, Teresa. It's a really interesting point, that of the mental charge, which I think is not often taken into consideration. But Anton,
Yes.
over to you.
Yes. So first off, I completely agree with what the previous speaker said. I think it's really important to try to evolve beyond a lot of the gender stereotypes that exist, to have men take up more care responsibilities. But even then, there are still some, I would say, difficult truths or inconvenient truths. For instance, just out of biological reasons, there will always be more single mothers than single fathers. And that means that the importance of social infrastructure, even beyond gender stereotypes, will always be extremely important. But the issue we have there, and I already alluded to it earlier, is that we have 1 million people leaving the labor force every year. And all the social infrastructure is extremely labor intensive. So that means we need to build up social infrastructure that is labor intensive in a time where the labor markets are becoming more and more constrained. And the more constrained they get, the more important the social infrastructure becomes, because it's a way to enable people to fully participate in the labor market. So basically, that is this impossible combination of elements that will be a huge challenge for policymakers in the coming decades, because it's not just for now, but if you look at the projections, the 8 decades that come from now up to 2100, we'll keep on losing people in the labor market.
Absolutely. I think you're right, Anton. There's a lot of work to be done and a lot of preparation. It's with great regret, though, that I need to draw this discussion to a close. And but it's before I do that, just thank you so much to Ms. Maxová, to our panelists, Anton, Riikka, Claudia, Katja, and Teresa. Now it's my great pleasure to hand back over to Christelle for the closing words, our Director-General of Eurocommerce.
No, a real warm thank you to all our panelists and for a brilliant and very authentic discussion this morning on the occasion of International Women's Day. I mean, clearly the discussion highlighted that it's not a discussion just for today. I mean, it's a conversation that has to take place day after day, and it also highlighted the importance of keeping on showing, exchanging and communicating on the good practices out there. If we take a step back, and as has been said during the discussion, the European Union faces a number of challenges in building a more resilient and a more competitive economy. And this cannot be done without the full support of everyone, and including the contribution of women in the workplace. As the largest private employer in retail and wholesale, we have a lot to contribute. Every year, our sector empowers women to reach new heights, to foster their professional growth, achieve financial independence, and enhance overall job satisfaction. So it really is something to be done day by day. And there's still more to be done. The sector, as we've heard during the panel discussion, is going through a massive digital and sustainability transformation. And that will require a major transformation And it will require also to be able to attract and to build on the talents that are there in the sector. And women, as a major part of the sector, will have a big role to play in delivering the transition. So the challenge remains very high, and we as a sector, we will not do that transformation alone. We need the member states to increase investment in the social infrastructure around it, to make it easier to take part in the labor market. We will also need some further action to support gender-sensitive education and combat stereotypes from an early age, but also every day to encourage women to take part in the conversation and to take the courage to take action. We need more girls and women to embrace careers in science and technology, and they will need to be supported to do that. We need more women to become entrepreneurs and to gain confidence that they can be as successful as men in their endeavors. They will also have to be given access to credit and finance on an equal basis, as lots of barriers also remain in that area. As part of the Retail Skills Partnership, together with our trade union partner Europa, we will take on that conversation, and we are committed to continue the work against discrimination and towards equal opportunities for all in our sector. So on that note, I'd like to thank you all again, our panelists, but also our audience, for your engagement and your commitment to help shaping a Europe that succeeds on diversity and equality. And as I said, it was a very good, very authentic, very passionate discussion today, and it will be a discussion, a conversation to continue day by day in the future. Thank you once again, and see you soon.